finals, they're not really going to stand a chance. However, if they go back to that fast pace they showed at MSI, that group stage winning fast pace, they should be in with a very good shot.
We're about to find out, just minutes away from game time. TSM ended summer slightly slower than they started. And I want to see what they decide to play. Jace is taken off the table, as well as now Nidalee by RNG.
And I think a lot of that is the worry. TSM averaged about 32 minutes a game in the regular season, and that ballooned to 38 minutes in the postseason because they actually said nerves got to them a little bit and they were afraid of making mistakes. They can't play slow against RNG because this team will definitely be the initiator onto you. I'm very interested to see which lanes these teams prioritize for strength in the picks and ban phase, because there are incredibly strong laning players in every position in this matchup.
And for the second time in 2 Chinese games, we've seen jungle pool heavily targeted.
Triple ban.
Out of RNG this time, and that means that one more time, MLXG is confident on the likes of the Graves. We'll see whether this gets into Svenskaren's head, although he plays pretty much everything as well.
And Svenskaren has been an incredibly good Lee Sin in the past. I do not think he would be hesitant to pick that whatsoever if RNG does decide to go with the Graves, which has had pretty poor success so far today because of the lack of early jungle pressure and falling behind in matchups. What will TSM do with this first pick? I'm gonna say it's not Kazakhs.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's not Kazakhs as well. MLXG, Malashankor, is also a very good Lee Sin player historically. However, it doesn't really suit RNG's playstyle, you would have to say at the moment. They do need him on a tank because Looper is a little bit more of an AP carry top laner. So we'll see whether they do decide to run another tankless lineup, because one more time, they've been very mixed success.
So,
oh, wow, there's a...
yeah, they're definitely going for some bottom lane, as the Lee Sin is also locked in on the other side. So that's actually an adaptation they've made. Lee Sin is the number 4 jungler for them, and that's a very clear strategy. But specifically the Nami is something that must have been crushing in scrims, because the early laning phase, as well as the general anti-poke it provides, has been picked by pretty much every team in every group, at least as a high priority. So we're going to see a ton of Nami at this World.
And I actually love it in Tomata because he's a big melee support player. Likes the Alistar, likes the Braum, and Nami can shut down a lot of that aggression with the bubble as well as the tidal wave and keep you topped up. Unless you get all in, you don't really lose the Nami lane. So we'll see whether Uzi and Mata adapt and get a range support themselves.
Right, what are TSM going to be locking in? They've hovered a bunch of jungle picks already. You assume it's going to be the Graves because we feel like that's higher up on the tier list. Is that something Svenskaren will be happy with? And what else will TSM lock in as well?
I think Svenskaren would be relatively happy with the Graves. The other pick could just be an 80 carry choice if TSM really just want to lock down that duo lane early. Wouldn't be too surprised. The Skarner is not Graves. That is definitely not Graves and was very unexpected.
Yeah, it certainly is, but it is one of the picks. It kind of ruins Lee Sin's day, to be honest. As soon as you fly in there, look for that kick, he just grabs you and blows you off. Very good counter initiation out of that jungle pick for TSM.
Gentlemen, in the previous game, I remember a Kled into Rumble, and I remember talking about how Kled and Skarner work well together. Am I getting too excited too early?
Yeah, I mean, there's also mixed opinions on whether or not the Kled is a good matchup into the Rumble. We haven't seen enough of it on the competitive stage. The Karma Sivir is actually a very NA bot lane that was something that Doublelift and Biofrost played more than almost anyone else. So both teams still going pretty hard into the bottom lane. I'm super curious to see what the 2 solo lanes are here, since the mid lane could be either a Karma or something else for RNG, so TSM has to pick it somewhat blind.
One thing we did see in the LPL quite heavily is the very supportive mid lane Karma. I think that it made an appearance in North America as well. I'm talking about, you know, with the Athenes, with the Ardent Sensor up there, and really getting behind 80 carries with AoE crit, like the Jinx, like the Sivir and the Twitch. So if they do really want to go for a Raise the Puppy comp, that is a possibility.
15 seconds left. Kled is being hovered. I want it, and I think San Francisco wants it, but it's going to be swapped away. Smarter, safer pick. Cassio and Kennen. That is a wombo combo if ever I've seen one.
And I actually think it's more reliable initiation than the Kled. If you're thinking about Hanser being able to flash in and go for a big play, it also gives some pretty solid gank setup if Looper wants to shove that lane in, because Svenskaren can waddle up there on Skarner and still get the stun chained off of Kennen. So I do like that choice from TSM.
And I actually love team comps like this because they have such good initiation, but they also have such good anti-dive coming out right now out of TSM. RNG is a team that if they do get a lead, likes to play fast. Oh. What the heck? This is a foreign pick in the LPL. I think only Bamey played it. Aurelion Sol.
Yeah. At MSI, Xiaohu didn't even know what all of his skills were when he played it against Tuhi the first time. So a lot has changed since then, including Uzi being on the bottom side of this map. So I love this pick and ban phase.
RNG did bootcamp in Korea. They were one of the first Chinese teams to move over, if I recall correctly. They've mixed a few things up. We've seen that Karma mid. This time it's support. What do we make of this team composition? Because it's fairly squishy in the grand scheme of things.
Exactly. It's fairly low on tanks, and that does open them up to some big wombos from Kennen. But if they do pull ahead, it gives them damage and an exceptional amount of wave clear in every single lane so that MLXG can start invading the jungle and kind of do to TSM what TSM did to everyone in North America.
Yeah, and the other thing is they just have such good bottom lane dive. If Aurelion Sol leaves, and we've already talked about how well the Rumble can shove up, that can be 5 members in bottom lane, and a lot of LPL games were determined by who got 5 members there first.
We'll find out exactly what they do. It's been over 7 months since Doublelift has played Ezreal. You're about to see the team compositions on the screen. We know that China's not a big Twitter fan, but I'm looking forward to seeing exactly how one-sided this vote is. Jump on Twitter, tweet at LoL eSports, hashtag TSM win, or hashtag RNG win. Join the conversation, hashtag Worlds. Ladies and gentlemen, it is one of the pre-tournament favorites. Team SoloMid taking on Royal Never Give Up for the last game of day 1 here in San Francisco. Just how good are both of these teams?
And I really do think that is a big question, specifically for RNG, because TSM, who have been the picture of consistency domestically, is almost shadowed by how up and down RNG has been. They were so good at MSI, but the back end of their season was not impressive.
Exactly. RNG completely fell to the global team compositions of EDG and were not able to sustain any advantage out of their bot lane. And now we're into this matchup between TSM and RNG, and all the cards are on the table. It's a best of 1. This is an incredibly competitive group at the top between TSM, RNG, and Samsung. One of those 3 teams will not be able to advance to the quarterfinals, and every team only plays each other twice, so much rides on every single game.
I want to see how well Bjergsen handles himself in the middle lane. Domestically, he was a player who was under a whole lot of pressure, a whole lot of time, and now he's in a matchup that I feel Xiaohu can fairly safely and fairly easily shove that wave in, sit on the back line against the short range of Cassiopeia.
Yeah, Aurelion Sol has actually been banned heavily, and I think will be banned heavily throughout the World Championship, in part because of the early game lane that he's able to push in. He can shove in pretty much every other champion in the game, and then even threaten the Raptor camp to get an even larger lead in that matchup. And with TSM starting Skarner and Kennen over on the top side of the map, Xiaohu's going to have freedom early on in the lane.
All right, for what I feel like the first time today is double range supports into one another. Going to be a lot of trading, a lot of aggressive back and forth. Xiaohu with the very early, very cheeky Wraith steal that we're seeing a lot more that's sort of popularized on 615.
Yeah, and I'm really interested to see what happens in this dual lane in the bottom side, as we have an unfortunate pause coming, because that's a lot of poke that TSM just ended up taking from the Carmen Sivir. And like we said, as far as 80 carries at the World Championship, they are the 2 best laners from a CS differential perspective.
Yeah, I mean, Uzi is up 9 at 10 minutes. Doublelift's generally up about 6. Uzi's balloons to 18 at 20 minutes. Doublelift stays around 13, so both still very good at picking up that farm. And you can see already in this lane, RNG are just focusing out heavily the creeps to try and get the shove, because that's how they like to play Sivir. They like to force you under turret when it happens consistently, and those dives do come out of Fog of War. Very hard to predict when they're going to come out.
All right, just to give you guys a quick update, Bjergsen has reported to the referees that he's currently unable to see Aurelion Sol's orbs. Now, this is being reviewed. The QA team backstage are looking at the footage and looking at his player cam. Once I get an update, I will pass that on. But that is a worry. That is a concern. It has happened before.
Yeah, that would be an interesting thing for Bjergsen. Last time he played against Aurelion Sol was in the North American playoffs.
I was about to say, you guys should hire this guy in North America as QA. He catches all the Aurelion Sol bugs.
Oh my goodness. So an unfortunate pause here for sure. We will get word on exactly what is happening.
And in terms of what is happening, client restarts Gonna reload it up, try to jump back in, take a look at the graphical effects, and see if we can resolve that issue as well as a few extra steps afterwards. And then we can see what this impact will have in terms of the laning phase, because I was mentioning it before, you know, Bjergsen, the recipient of enemy jungle proximity, a whole lot. This is a guy who everybody wants to camp, right? Because he's one of the carries for TSM.
That's the interesting thing. As far as the mid laners that have been tracked that are the non-LPL mid laners at Worlds, he is the highest opponent jungle proximity, and what that stat means is that it's the percentage of time that the enemy jungler spends within 2,000 range of the mid laner. So Bjergsen does draw a lot of attention and doesn't necessarily get the attention himself. So it's a testament to how strong of a laner he is that he still provides so much pressure, and I think is one of the reasons he's the MVP.
Yeah, it definitely is. The other thing that he does incredibly well is facilitates Svenskeren to get into the opponent's jungle. I mean, Svenskeren does the largest amount of counter jungling as well in the whole of Worlds, and I think that that really is a testament to how well Bjergsen fends off 2 opponents and unlocks his jungler to be able to get things done elsewhere.
A lot of pressure then on Svenskeren as well as the rest of TSM. So you guys know they are doing a couple of tests, just pausing and unpausing, double checking whether or not those particles are in fact visible. And with a little bit of luck, don't get too excited, I'm afraid.
Very quickly. It looks like there's going to be one more pause. That doesn't look good, quick shot.
No, it doesn't look good. It is a warrior. As we said, it is part of these QA process. You need to go through a few different attempts. We'll give you guys an update once we hear a little bit more, but
yeah, so there is a little bit of precedence for what happens when bugs like this happen. If it's a bug that can't be fixed in the game, so to speak, it has been game of record so far, so if they do remake the game, they would do it with the new picks and bans. And if they remake the game because the Aurelion Soul bug is deemed unfixable, there's a chance that it would be turned off for the rest of the tournament, which would actually have massive implications as far as Worlds is concerned. But that's reading a little bit too much into it. Currently, they're still going through the process. Yeah. Apparently, the orbs disappeared very quickly after the pause again for Bjergsen, so they're currently looking into it, and we'll get back to you as soon as we know the ruling.
Yeah, exactly. So we've spoken a lot about the mid lane matchup because obviously the Aurelion Soul was very pivotal when you look at Xiaohu versus Bjergsen. But let's talk about Hornstar on this Kennen. The combo potential with Svenskeren on Skarner. Those are 2 picks that were sort of in the conversation of what we're anticipating here at Worlds. But looking at picks and bans wins, Jat, what do you think then in terms of how TSM directed their top duo lock-ins?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good combo as far as being able to assist the Skarner with Kennen initiations, but it does kind of change the power dynamic between the jungle and the top laners. Svenskeren during the regular season was incredibly pivotal in their engages, as were most junglers who's played a lot of Gragas and Rek'Sai, and he basically lived in the enemy jungler. One of the big things about Gragas and Rek'Sai is they have very good outs when they're invading the enemy jungle, but Skarner doesn't necessarily have those same abilities to run away if he does get collapsed on. So I think in this game in particular, Svenskeren wanted to play exactly the same style as he did in North America, it would be more difficult because assuming we continue to play, the Rumble, the Aurelion Soul, and the Sivir would have the lanes pushing up, and there's a lot of talk about the lanes enabling the jungler rather than the other way around this year. And in this situation, it's actually RNG's lanes that would enable the jungler, and TSM would have to play a bit of defense.
One thing you do have to look at, however, is the fact that the layered CC in top lane is so incredibly potent for TSM. And RNG is known to leave Looper on an island. So if this does get to level 6, or even, a cheeky gank at level 4 when he's able to reapply the stun and, keep slowing down the top lane, I think that Svenskeren does have some ins against Looper. And we've already seen so many times, if you get Kennen ahead, the turret dives, the ability to teamfight just becomes so incredibly scary early on in the game.
It's definitely a win more button type of champion with a lead. Ladies and gentlemen, just as an update, as we continue to investigate the issue, we are going to send it over to Dash and the rest of the analyst desk to talk about the game.
Thank you very much, Quick Shot. Now, currently, we do have our refs setting up a custom game to test a few things regarding this bug. There's a theory that perhaps the bug is linked to the skin choice. If that's the case, then ideally we can work around it. So while they're pursuing that option there, we get some time to break down this game. Of course, we haven't seen a whole lot yet, so I do want to talk about champions like primarily Nami's continuing to be highly prioritized, but then the Skarner pick.
Yes, and for the entirety of the regular season, North America has been the region that doesn't really clinch the jungle pool. We rarely see targeted bans, and RNG, on the other hand, on the LPL, they do this a lot. So one of the tests for an NA would be, can they handle a targeting of the jungle pool against them, and it looks very much like so. That's five junglers that Svenskeren has to be able to play. Lee Sin, Elise, Nidalee, Rek'Sai, and now with the Skarner, obviously a low-pressure jungler early on, but he's so strong in skirmishing, and I'm really excited to see this because it forces QSS out of everything, and there's so much CC out of TSM.
All right, well, so the Skarner itself being a strong pick, we'll see if the play can now support the pick, because that's the big question. He's forced down onto something that he's obviously probably not as comfortable as the top 3 or top 4 picks, but we'll see if the play develops from there. You have something to say, Papa?
I mean, it shouldn't be a surprise that Nami's taken first pick. That's been the story so far this tournament, but it's at quite a high cost. Because of the 3 jungle bans, Sivir Karma is the completed bottom lane that's given over to RNG. Karma does very well against
Nami.
against the Nami in lane. Yeah. So in general, it's quite a big cost. And although the Nami will still be a strong choice, Ezreal Nami will still do competitively, you don't do great in that 2v2 matchup. And the Sivir's been banned so frequently, that utility in team fights too. So it's a pretty big cost for TSM.
Yeah, we could see it pretty early on. The Karma Sivir just has the control of the lane. Once they get access to the push, it's going to be shove, shove, shove all day. Especially the Skarner isn't really going to gank and ruin that too much. Should still be a tie farming lane. Nami has enough sustain to keep them in the game right there. Matchup I actually really like is the Aurelion Sol, because I think it kind of distorts the perception of a lot of matchups there in the mid lane. Because when you have Cassiopeia, notorious for strong early push, really strong early trading in a zone, well, Aurelion Sol is just going to say, you know what, I'm going to walk up to the creeps, push it, and even on level 2, steal away some of these Raptors already, you know. So immense threat from the mid lane. If you look at RNG's composition as well, so many movement speed steroids, they can play a very mobile game. And in that sense, it would really be a bummer for them if this A-Sol now turns out to be like bugged and they have to like remake the game, because like this is an entire composition that they probably like practiced a lot on. I hope we get it fixed.
Yeah, I hope so as well. Now, I do have a slight update. As it appears, the orbs that surround Aurelion Sol are disappearing when they make contact with a wall. So it is a different bug than what we've seen before. Still don't quite know what what the root cause of it is maybe behind that, or what the solution is yet, but just a little bit of an update. We're closer to an answer. And now I want to come back to this Champs Select discussion, because it's what we've got to talk about. Yeah. and point towards his top lane. We've seen a Kennen pick, our first one of the Worlds tournament here. Rumble, though, on the other side, already a mainstay of the world stage from this first day of play.
So Kennen is an incredibly dominant champion during the laning phase. He can go with the Doran's Blade from the start, has so much harass, but luckily Rumble, he's going to go with the Doran's Shield. He's going to have a lot of shields and be able to sustain himself relatively well throughout that laning phase, and it's just such a heavy skill matchup. They both have kill pressure, and believe it or not, it's really snowbally. Whichever one can get ahead of the other basically has kill pressure at level 6 every single time. So I'm looking for a lot of attention from these junglers, particularly at level 6. Even though they can put pressure early on, they really need the level 6 ultimates, not from the junglers, but from the laners themselves to really cement that advantage.
And it's a lane that's actually morphed a lot ever since Rumble got the ability to push the lane. Previously, it would be the range champion versus the melee, standing in front of the creeps or in the brush and just auto-attack harassing, and Rumble wouldn't have an answer. Now Rumble can get those 3 points in queue, shove back, give Kennen more of a time. Kennen doesn't have great AoE wave clear without getting into short range. So what used to be, I think, pretty slanted heavily to Kennen is now pretty much a 50-50 matchup.
No, the same still applies in terms of wave control, because when Rumble is pushing, he has no way out.
Sure.
So despite having the ability to push, definitely saw Papa's right on the money there. If you pop that Flame Spitter, like, those creeps are going to evaporate. Problem is, Rumbles don't really like playing too overextended into lane, especially when they're laning against something with a heavy gap closer that can combo into like a crowd control effect like Kennen. Kennen himself can play pretty far up, because the Lightning Rush can always get you out of harm's way. It's going to be tricky for Lupa and MLXG here to combine Elysian Rumble with no hard CC to lock down a Kennen who is incredibly mobile.
Yeah.
Whereas like Kennen plus Skarner, they can aggressively flash and combine some of these hard crowd control effects, potentially take down the Rumble.
Well, I'm glad you brought that point up, because I do think that while there is difficulty with Lee Sin being able to make plays in those other areas by himself, I think this composition is just a matter of you tag team middle lane with Aurelion Sol, and you just go top, bottom, over and over with the Aurelion Sol roam. He's so powerful with this. Lee Sin can follow perfectly, and you're able to just have so much pressure. So obviously the RNG game plan is just to snowball off mid lane, which, to be honest, I've never really heard of a lot of people saying, oh yeah, our plan's to snowball off of Bjergsen.
Now, while we wait for some more info on this visual bug, I do want to pull us away from Champion Select and look at this matchup now more from the team's perspective. We talked a little bit about, RNG being this star-studded roster, and can they come together in a macro sense? And on the flip side, you've got TSM, who in their own region was looked at as an unstoppable macro team. Stylistically, disregarding even this Champion Select specifically, how exactly do we expect these teams to match up? Which lane might swing it all for these teams?
I mean, again, I think it's the duo rather than just specifically. I think it's all about Xiaohu and MLXG. These guys were so on form back when we were at MSI, and these two were really the carry duo. Then, of course, Uzi draws that pressure from the jungle. It's never so much about the mid lane and jungle. And Xiaohu's champion pool hasn't really stood the test of time. I was actually thinking he might pick up the Azir again here because he was a bit of a one-trick Azir and Xerath way back when he debuted in spring last year. But Aurelion Sol's so important for him because Aurelion Sol ditched his lane so well because he has strong pushing, leaves with a strong ganking jungler like the Lee Sin. They can make the plays, and I think they can be the ones to disrupt the flow of the well-practiced, well-drilled TSM team.
I think stylistically, TSM has an advantage in the macro, even though we saw them at playoffs and it wasn't really the crispest. They have performed very well during the summer season in terms of understanding how to use wave management, pressure, especially during the lane stop. While that is still no longer a factor, the fundamentals that you learn there still apply to regular laning phase. Whereas RNG on the other side, they're a bit of a wild card in the actual macro game. You don't know what to expect, and if you don't have that consistency, it's really difficult to match up against a macro team. And that's why we saw for many years back all the teams trying to mimic Korea because their macro would just beat all the individual skill that you could
Hey,
bring.
if they have wildcard macro, they're actually going to have really good macro.
I don't know,
Based
man.
on what we've seen today.
EU went 0-3.
Below the belt, man. Come on now.
They're the new macro. Look at me. I'm the macro team now. But yeah, if you look, actually, it's actually a point that they brought earlier up in the interview with INTZ. It's you don't judge a team just by the most recent tournament or playoffs. You judge them by the regular season. And for TSM especially, they definitely showed that they have really good understanding of the macro elements of the game because they were such a quick team, had the fastest game times in NA by a stretch because they finished so damn quick because they knew exactly what to do. They took a step back in playoffs, a little hesitant. The changes back to standard lanes, didn't have the greatest scrim week, so they took it slow and steady to win the games. But if TSM have reverted back to that original style, this should be really fun to watch in this tournament where it's definitely able to snowball.
Right, but if anything, seeing that within the regular season they had the quickest game times, and then even in the playoffs, losing a few minutes on that time and slowing down a bit, it shows that they're comfortable playing to both game lengths, right? Yeah. They're okay ending a game at 32 minutes on average, or going to that 38, 40-minute mark and still taking games home.
Yeah, and I think it shows with the drafting, basically a press R composition as well as a scaling Ezreal. We don't really see this so much from them. I mean, in the beginning of the season, it was all about Lucian, non-stop Lucian with that really fast early Black Cleaver Youmuu's build that just had such an immense power spike in the mid game. And now they're obviously reverting to a more, well, not reverting, but trying out this style that is a lot more controlled and more calculated, almost like what we saw out of Samsung in the previous game. And I'm excited to see what they can actually do with that because I haven't seen Svenskeren in NA play a level 6 jungler as such a level 6 jungler, unlike Gragas, who obviously can put a lot more pressure early on.
It's an interesting conversation around both Doublelift and Uzi, who are our featured matchup. So let's re-hit them real quick. I mean, in this Champion Select, Ez going over to Doublelift, we had expectations that Ezreal would be a largely contested pick for ADCs in this tournament. Sivir, though, going over to Uzi here. I mean, along with a Karma, so definitely filling more of that utility role, at least this time around for the team.
And Uzi, the one thing, we always talk about is the puppy. He was never a puppy that played nice with his teammates. It was all about himself. You wouldn't think of him as a Sivir player because, utility AD carry, even though now, of course, the late game damage is immense as well. But when he joined OMG, which, of course, was a roster, I guess, 2 teams ago for Uzi, now he's been
He went through
moving
puppy
around.
training.
It was an interesting couple of years there for Uzi. He's settled now on RNG. Specifically on OMG, he played for the team. He played this Sivir. It was his best champion. I honestly think it's one of his best picks. It might not be the Caitlyn that was banned away, so it's not the same laning powerhouse, but it gives utility, and it's still that late game hyper carry fantasy that Uzi always wants to aspire for.
All right, so I have to jump in here and give some more context on what's happening. The players have been excused from the stage because there will be a full remake. Now, in terms of Aurelion Sol, there's still some discussion on whether or not he will be disabled. So that information I will get to you as soon as I have it. But for now, the teams have been informed there will be a full remake. We're going to provide them with some time so that they can go back and retool for Champions Select, because as we had hit that game of record time, there will be the possibility of new picks, new bans. So now let's kind of refocus our conversation on this game 2, right? In that we have some information now about what these teams want to do, and so do they. And they're going to be coming back for this second Champ Select with this information in mind.
Yeah.
It's basically a moment where everybody shows like, oh, this is what I got, and then just kidding. All right, let's do it again, right? It's like playing rock, paper, scissors, and a surprise, and then now you try again. So I'm really curious to see how they deem this draft, because particularly for RNG, it was very clear what they were trying to target, just a full-on jungle ban. And I mean, let's say that TSM wasn't happy with the Skarner pick. They could easily revert and first pick Lee Sin. It changes so much because of how detailed the draft was from RNG.
At the same time, there are no real big surprises here. Most of these picks are what's considered meta here at the tournament, like the Rumble Cannon in top lane. We've seen that Casio. We've seen that, like, NA is no stranger to Aurelion Sol here, so like there's no really big surprises. Yes, there is in priority, but these teams have to be flexible. If they want to make it out of group stages after 6 games, yes, it's very unfortunate. But I don't think it will hit either team way too hard. If it's not like they prepared only one draft.
I hope not. God, I hope not. That would be an awful way to approach a six separate best of ones. I mean, we kind of saw it last year with NA. That Azir Tristana composition that so many of the NA teams had revolved around was completely dismantled in week 2.
I'm going to disagree a little bit with you, Crepo. I think the RNG have shown more here. They've banned junglers, so you know that so much. That's in their thoughts. Aurelion Sol, I believe this is the first or second pick for Xiaohu. He hasn't played. That champion's been very underplayed in a lot of regions, but specifically in the LPL. So showing a new champion, showing a priority when it comes to bans, I think this actually just strengthens TSM going into the remake game.
But there was a very late surge on the Aurelion Sol, because the champion that did everything the same was the Talia. It's very similar in gameplay patterns, and that one got nerfed at the end of the season. So I think these teams are used to playing with fast push mid laners that can then roam. It's just champion has a different name now.
Sure.
All right, well, now while the teams prepare to remake the game with new picks and bans, we need to take a quick break. So don't go anywhere, because we'll be right back in 3.5. Welcome back, everyone. Now, it has been determined by league officials that the bug discovered in the TSM and RNG game does warrant disabling Aurelion Sol temporarily. I put extra emphasis on that word temporarily. Now, since the games need to be remade with new picks and bans, the teams have been given time to strategize with this champion off the table. So, gentlemen, once again, I return to the conversation we were having before. With Aurelion Sol off the table for this game, how does this affect the pick bans moving into game 2?
I mean, if you're looking, if we would mimic the same draft and we get to the last rotation, there is potentially, like Papa Smithy was talking about, locking in the Azir for Jahul because he played out a lot. There's also what's considered very meta here is the Orianna actually coming back into that matchup because it's a really good matchup into Cassiopeia because you can just keep her at distance, and the looming threat of an Orianna ultimate is always able to counter that. I don't know if Jahul has practiced this champion because otherwise he has to whip it out with very little playtime.
Well, the thing is, I don't think that the draft actually impacts the mid lane pick that much because, as you mentioned, there are a lot of replacements for the Aurelion Sol, and these teams are no strangers to Sol being banned. We saw this pick being a contested pick beforehand. Obviously, a lot of teams are prepared against it, with it, etc. But I think that it just really deters the strategy with Lee Sin. That's really the one that I kind of feel bad for RNG because Lee Sin with that really strong early game jungler or mid laner like Aurelion Sol is not going to find that same success with the likes of an Orianna or with the likes of, say, a Vladimir in these matchups. That is kind of what I thought would be the game plan for them, and it just completely thrown out the window, and it might lead to them showing 2 strats in one game, which is not a good place to be in.
Right, although that it would be unfortunate, of course, having the ability to redo the picks and bans. They can change up that triple jungle ban strategy so that the jungle pool no longer gets pinched and open up their options for things outside of the Lee Sin jungle.
I mean, at the end of the day, RNG come in here looking for an ace up their sleeves. If you've played during normal metas, if you just follow TSM during the regular season, they're expected to win this game pretty comfortably in a standard game. But the ace here was ban 3 junglers. Happy to see the Nami taking the first pick, and the Lee Sin was certainly what they were going for. Although MLXG hasn't played that much, at least in this year, has always been a really big pick for him. So at the end of the day, I feel like that they're kind of going to have to really come up with something new. As Crumbs was saying, unfortunately, it has to be a new strategy, but it needs to be something out of the box, I think, to take the win over TSM.
Then, Crepo, let's put the focus back on the bottom lane, because we talked about the fact that you've got Uzi on one side, Doublelift on the other, and that, for RNG, a lot of their focus has been around the bot lane. Caitlyn, of course, was banned in the first game by TSM, but with the talk of this Nami maybe not pinching the jungle pool, is there a possibility that they can maybe leave up a higher priority first pick so that they can take the Nami in response, first rotation for RNG?
Yeah, Nami is definitely strong, but it kind of gets equaled out by the Karma. So I think if RNG wants to do this approach, they should actually just ban either the Nami or the Karma themselves. Say, hey, TSM, if you want this priority jungler, it's going to cost you a really solid range support. And that will elicit the reaction from TSM that they actually have to play a really passive bot lane, or maybe try and go for like a Bard to go equal, but that's very hard in a lot of matchups. So there's definitely a good mind game you can play, especially when there's distinct top 2 in terms of lane prowess, in terms of supports, being the Nami and the Karma, and the other lanes will have to adapt playing around that.
And I don't see TSM not banning Caitlyn because that pick is just so powerful, and you know that RNG will have no issues in the first rotation because you get 2 picks out of that, whereas TSM doesn't want to be put in a position where their first pick is Caitlyn. You don't really get a whole lot of value for your team composition. Right from the start, you're giving away supports, junglers, too much that can influence that lane.
Now, do you have something you want to throw in there, Crepo?
It's the beauty of the standard lane meta right now, though, is that you have a lot of liberties in champ selects. It's no longer must bans anywhere. Yes, you could argue Elise is very strong, Nidalee is incredibly strong, so maybe those 2 picks are permaban status, but for the rest, like, you can mold and kind of sculpt your pick and ban phase very well together and create something that you like playing with.
All right, well, as we have seen on our screens here, the players have made their way back to the stage. They are prepared and ready to dive back into Champion Select. So one more time, we're going to throw it back to our casters in Jet, Quick Shot, and Spawn to get us in the game.
Thank you very much, Sir Dashington. We are about to jump into TSM versus Royal Never Give Up. Just another quick reminder, ASOL is temporarily disabled while the QA team investigates throughout the night. We will do another update, obviously, tomorrow before broadcast, but without Aurelion Sol, does Royal Never Give Up ban the 3 junglers again? Where do you think they go with the direction? The analyst desk already hinted at a few options.
I think it's incredibly hard to tell, and you're going to have to start kind of going into a blind. The last time we saw this situation, we actually saw a nearly identical pick and ban phase. This was against TSM and COG, and then they just switched the last pick. So if RNG thinks there is an analog to Aurelion Sol that can fit their wave clear and team fighting issues, I don't see a large reason for them to change much, unless TSM went into the back room or RNG went into the back room and thought they lost that draft terribly. Otherwise, I think they do the same thing.
I think that if you get the same pick ban, Azir is a very good pick right now for RNG that can match the shove and actually keeps things like the Skarner as well as the Cannon out if we go completely mirrored team compositions here. So I think that they would be pretty happy with that.
No change yet. It was a first pick Nami last time round.
There's a
and
change.
is it going to get locked? It is locked.
I thought he locked
Graphic.
it.
Yeah, it is locked. It is locked.
He did. Oh my. Quick shot. My heart.
I know. The graphics threw me off just a little bit, but TSM have pivoted. So with the jungle champion pool pinched, no Skarner for Svenskeren.
Yeah, and this actually tweaks the pick and ban phase a lot. And quite honestly, this whole situation sucks for everyone involved. They have to completely pivot their pick and ban phase. It completely matters on how quickly you can adapt. These guys spent a month on their previous pick and ban phase, so to speak, to get to the first game, and they've had 20 minutes for their next one. So it is a very quickly evolving scenario, and it's really about mental strength and adaptability right now. And because TSM has decided to switch it up, they think they're going to be stronger at this game. They think they can adapt faster. That's why they lock in Lee Sin.
And you know, history would show that that's probably the case right now. RNG has been rattled in series and been slow to react. So I like the fact that TSM is the team that is willing to pull that curveball out. And we'll see now whether RNG sticks to a very similar draft and gets another aggressive jungler, or whether they go completely off the wall.
Well, TSM once again get the Nami. Please disregard the visual bug on Lee Sin and that timer. This is the picks of bans as far as the graphics are concerned. The Cassiopeia was stolen away by Shao, who Bjergsen had locked it in previously. And now TSM got the duo, got the jungler, leaving their solo lanes till last rotation, waiting for RNG to reveal a little bit more information.
I think it's really interesting that TSM have decided to go for the Jhin when they still could have just gotten the Ezreal Nami bottom lane, which they picked early last game. But it probably has a little bit to do with the Cassiopeia and the Rumble and being able to zone them out of team fights a little bit, since especially with those two picks and all the jungle bans, a tanky jungler isn't that likely. So therefore the Jhin ultimates could actually do a lot of poke pre-fight, and TSM is continuing to try and change things up.
But your setup has to be so good because, I mean, if you get a Bard ultimate thrown at you as a Jhin, you stop your ultimate. You get a Rumble ultimate thrown at you as a Jhin, you die. So there's a little bit of a difference there, and I'll be interested to see how Doublelift and TSM play around that vision that you need as a Jhin to start up these fights.
Yeah, so much change. We see the Hecarim being pulled out. That's definitely not Skarner on that side. Orianna has gotten pulled out for Bjergsen. It's something he practiced a whole bunch in solo queue. It had some buffs coming towards 6.18. It's the first one we see at Worlds. I do not think it will be the last. And it's a lot of support actually revolving around a Jhin so far for TSM.
It's not a world championship without an Orianna at some point, chat. And it's actually the matchup that even the analyst desk was talking about, you know, in terms of what options Xiaohu could have run into the Cassiopeia in conjunction with the rest of the team composition. I think this wanna go fast comp is already terrifying, and Marta has locked in Alistar.
And I think that Marta said it in spring, give me Alistar and I will win you the game. And he throws down the gauntlet because that is a punishing duo lane to go up against. And they're not going to have the wave control now because they've given away melee versus range.
How are they going to play this lane is my question. The Jhin Nami is devastating to the Alistar Sivir, and it's not like MLXG can provide a lot of early jungle pressure on the Hecarim. This is risky from RNG to try and pick the stronger team fight and better late game support, because he'd be able to tank up a lot of the ultimates that come out of TSM. But boy, do they have a lot of faith in themselves if they think they can win this lane against Jhin Nami.
A lot of a gauntlet thrown down. TSM have to take advantage of the early game strengths, because if they allow RNG to get to the mid to late game with this team composition, they are literally at risk of being run over.
Yeah, and the scary thing for TSM is you've also picked a 5v5 team fighting comp, and you're going up against some of the best in the business when you look at what RNG do with these death ball comps. So incredibly excited to see how TSM can execute in that late game if it does get there. The early game is going to be incredibly difficult to get through.
If TSM get their way, it will not get there. And with some very strong laners especially in that top and bottom lane, and Lee Sin as well. Svenskeren, what can you do? For the second time today, jump onto Twitter, ladies and gentlemen, hashtag TSM win, or will LPL's number 2, hashtag RNG win, pick up a victory? Apple Pie already has a W on the board today. TSM's looking to make it 2 as we load up onto Summoner's Rift for the last time today on day 1.
Yeah, and both these teams need to make sure they're refocusing, getting their heads in the game. We see a lot of different champions coming out of this next ban phase. Substantial change from both team compositions.
And I just want to touch on the Orianna a little bit, because any champion, in my opinion, that can pick up Morella Nomicon and Rylai's Crystal Scepter has a spot in the current meta, just because they're so incredibly gold efficient. And Orianna, that is the build that she is going towards.
And I also do have to say, the buffs to Orianna was a cooldown reduction to the ultimate, and especially with how accessible CDR is, even at level 11, you're now dealing with a sub 1 minute cooldown on the Orianna ult. So it changes from this thing you have to wait for the perfect team fight to something you can actually just use for harass a lot of the time. And I think that's one of the big reasons we see the resurgence.
Oh, look at me, Matt.
Oh, this is cute.
Sonic Wave, stun maybe. No, I'm going to time out. Those Marks of the Storm. Not going to be able to get stacked up. Nothing really gained. Just a little bit of poke damage here onto Looper.
They actually get a lot of control over the top side of the jungle. All of a sudden, MLXG doesn't get a leash on the red buff.
Hopefully it's not coming across on the screen.
Are we good?
It was definitely going out in-house, so I'm glad I'm not alone.
I bet you guys didn't know Spawn was that good at rapping.
Either way, we're back into the early game. You're talking about the early advantage they were able to get. MLXG was unable to get a pull from any sense to Looper, and is a little bit low at the start.
That's what I was trying to say. And Hecarim already jungles quite low, so we'll see whether MLXG just have to 3 camp and go back, because that gives Svenskeren really big advantage in the early game, actually, already on the Lee Sin.
Well, Firefrost playing very aggressively, actually comes away worse for wear in this trade, but double ranged into range melee. Going to give them some support, couple of biscuits and a heal in his kit as well. There you go, trading with that ebb and flow. Already back up the top, and Doublelift and Bifrost really contesting every single CS.
Yeah, and this is where the biggest focus is going to be in the early game, especially because Bifrost and Doublelift need to be able to crush this lane. I actually got to talk to Doublelift as the season was ending, and I asked him why they actually switched away from range supports and towards melee supports towards the playoffs, and he said it's because the 5 to 10 CS advantages just aren't worth it, and the junglers are so good at ganking, so if you push up, a Gragas or Rek'Sai comes and kills you. Obviously, with 3 jungle bans, the tone has changed a little bit, and the Hecarim can't punish the lane nearly as hard. So for TSM to pick this, I think they're expecting a 20 to 30 CS advantage at some point, and maybe even first turret.
But in saying that, if there is one range melee support that's going to kill you, it is the Thunder Cow, and he's taking Ignite into this, as well as the first gank coming down mid.
Oh, MLXG's come in, Bjergsen's in trouble, Ghost already used, Flash is available, Sonic Wave comes in, Svenskeren's looking for Xiaohu, not going to get the kill though. MLXG's able to get away, and jungler support, Flash and Ghost blown on both sides of the mid lane.
Yeah, 6 summoner spells used overall on that, and it ends up with everyone just kind of walking away. We said bottom lane would be the focus, but that mid lane gank was very close to working for RNG.
And you know, you talk about summoner spell usage, Bjergsen does not flinch at that stage of the game, holds onto his flash until the last possible moment, nearly turned that around for Svenskeren to be able to pick up the first blood there. I like the, I guess, courage coming out of Bjergsen in that 2v1.
You got to give some credit to MLXG, making a pre-level 6 gank work very effectively on this Hecarim. Blue buff going to be donated over here to Bjergsen. This is going to give him even more control in the mid lane. 10 CS advantage currently, and in actual fact, Uzi has gone up to a 7 CS lead, but that's because Doublelift is farming up a very, very big minion wave right under the tower. Missing just quite a few of those CS, actually.
Ooh, the reload. I hate that mechanic.
Yeah, not able to pick up every single one, and Uzi's gone back for a call, so that just really says that Uzi's trying to stay in this towards the team fight phase, but really you'd want TSM to be able to punish this a little bit harder than they have even early on in the game.
And this is something that LPL teams actually love to do. They throw the gauntlet. We scale better than you. You're going to actually have to win this lane insanely hard now because we have the cull. So we're getting a lot of passive gold on our side as well. It generally draws a lot of jungle attention in the LPL as now Marta goes for a roam.
Oh, that's a flash pulverized. Svenskeren in trouble. Remember, there's no flash. First blood picked up to MLXG.
And Marta headbutts him back onto the grounded zone there so he can't ward hop away. Very nice support play.
That was gorgeous from Mata, and that's why you pick the Alistar. You don't pick it for the lane, you pick it for the plays that can be made. So much has been made about how RNG needs to raise Uzi, now he demands resources. Clearly RNG changing it up a little bit with an Alistar pick for a poor lane, and he just deserts him for a level 3 roam, and it works with the kill.
All right, let's take another look at this. He goes in nice and deep off of back timing. They're able to see Svenskeren on a ward, and he just flashes in, immediately pulls him. As soon as the ground is down, just knocks him back on top.
Yep, no ward jump is possible when he's on the Miasma from the Cassiopeia. Really going to make things difficult for Svenskeren to get in this game.
And the thing I love about the roam the most is if Marta can continue to do this, it's no longer a 2v2. It's a Jhin versus a Sivir, and Sivir's going to win out in that push, and it allows Uzi to continue to scale up. So if he goes towards a quick boots, if he gets priority in that vision, as you can see they have on the bottom side of the jungle, this is a repetitive play style to be able to go back towards.
Now, there's 2 pink wards for RNG. Keep track of how long they are alive. Another pink ward in the Tribush, which Horns is just about to walk over. He's placed a ward down, actually, so we'll be aware that it's there, but not safe enough to clear out just yet. And Svenskeren, we caught a quick glimpse of him stealing with that Raptor camp from RNG. We're at an even game as far as gold is concerned, but first blood in RNG's pockets, making up for the CS deficits in multiple lanes.
I do think those pink wards, though, kind of tell us where RNG's head's at. A lot of times, 6 minutes into the game, you're trying to get river control with your pink wards, yet they place 2 pink wards inside the jungle of TSM. They may be headhunting for Svenskeren in this game and trying to keep him completely out of the game. Since TSM do have relatively strong lanes, and if they can keep Lee Sin out of it, they can basically guarantee their lanes don't die.
What you really need to watch for here is MLXG's gone back. He got the shock for the challenging smite, and Loop has allowed the wave to push in, which means if it bounces back, you can build up a big wave. Then you get the deep teleport. It's actually not available. So this is a play that you would run with teleport a lot in the LPL. I don't think it's going to be worthwhile 3v2, so we'll see whether they can actually play towards the bottom half of the map.
And I think there's going to be a lot of jungle invading going on right here, although Svenskeren doesn't have a tracker's knife yet. And like you said, MLXG has the challenging smite. Gotta be scared of the level 6 Lee Sin, though.
Yeah, versus level 5. MLXG gonna back away. Support coming from TSM already. Bjergsen's inside the jungle. Haunts had been running in for a few moments, and they're contesting the red.
Yeah, you have a 13 CS advantage in the top lane, a 14 CS advantage in the mid lane, and because they're both shoved in, it's a very easy move for TSM, not being daunted by the kill that Svenskeren suffered earlier, and he's able to just go and take a red for very little congestion.
This is kind of what you expect, though, right? When you looked at the lanes of TSM, when you look at the team compositions, and the fact that Lee Sin's going to be able to go toe-to-toe with MLXG's Hecarim for a while still, it just allows TSM to make those aggressive forward plays.
That's what you expect out of TSM. MLXG giving up a red buff for free is not what you expect out of RNG. I am actually incredibly surprised by the discipline coming out of RNG, just walking away from that play, giving it up because, you know, they do have the scaling on their side.
And that's a scary sign for TSM. If RNG, if they can keep things close, if they can allow their scaling to kick in, and then potentially prove to be the better team fighters, that could be a way for RNG to get in.
This is smart.
Oh, Biofrost gets caught out. No tidal wave available. Holds onto his flash very confidently, and Uzi and Mata, they back away.
Yeah, but this is going to allow RNG the freedom to push up the lane a little bit. I do really like the way RNG is playing most of this early game. A lot more smart than you would expect them to if you were watching the finals in the LPL, and they're really kind of defying a lot of the preconceived notions about this team.
I would say a lot more respectful than the way that they're playing the LPL final. They're not throwing the gauntlet, they're not trying to go toe-to-toe. Instead, they're ceding advantages where they need to and trying to get advantages on the other side of the map. As you can see right now, counter jungling comes in for Bjergsen. MLXG's top side trying to take away some wolves.
Gonna end up trading those blue buffs. Keep track of those CS numbers. It is still nearly plus 20 for Hornsa, 16 at the moment. In the mid lane, plus 13, plus 10 in the AD carry role. So those laners for TSM are doing well, but not well enough. We're approaching 10 minutes on the clock. and it is basically an even game. Svenskeren may want to change that.
Collapsed on.
Sonic Wave, Ward Hop, the Sonic Wave connects! Svenskeren follows him over the wall, but MLXG's running at a mile a minute. He's got the close down, flash forward, Sonic Wave, Dragon's Rage, Svenskeren gets the kill!
That was a great play by Svenskeren right there, chasing MLXG all the way from River to the inner turret. Exactly why he wants to pick Lee Sin.
Despite giving up first blood, no fear, landing every single skill shot.
And this is just so incredibly impressive. I mean, able to land the first Q past Harold, but then follows up, has the confidence to be able to flash and land the second Q, gets the execute damage, and then follows it up. That is beautiful play.
Yeah, and he's able to do that and invade so deeply because the solo lanes are struggling so far for RNG. I definitely do think Bjergsen and Hansa are doing quite well, and it is one of the things that RNG struggled with a little bit in the summer split is Uzi was the lane that was winning, and Xiaohu and Looper weren't doing as well as you would have expected. The main thing I'm impressed with so far, though, is just how subdued this game has been, despite the expectations from RNG.
Ooh. Respect flash there from Double Lift. Bubble onto Marta. The Unbreakable Will comes out. Marta's going low. Double Lift's got Curtain Call. May want to throw it down for RNG. Dancing Grenade comes out on the hunt from Uzi. Teleport matched by Hansa about a second later, though. The curtain is called. Shots being fired. Teleport arrives. Here comes Hansa. He's deciding not to flash just yet. Teleport's blown. Ultimates, summoners, and nobody goes down.
Who are you and what have you done with RNG? I mean, there were so many times they looked like they wanted to pull the trigger there, but the play continues.
Well,
it's 5 people bottom.
There's the trigger, it's been pulled. Marta gets rooted, Shockwave whiffs. That's not what we're expecting. Tidal Wave goes wide and Uzi has cleared the wave out. TSM peel back. They may look to take Dragon.
But instead it's TSM with the force this time around. I mean, RNG able to back away from the situation. They get their recalls in, Waves in a pretty good position, especially top that's pushing back towards Looper. So TSM maybe get a little bit antsy with that call.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they're expecting to jump ahead in this game. They do not want to get to 30-minute team fights against a big Alistar, a 3-item Sivir, a 4-item Cassiopeia, and the Rumble plus Hecarim. They just are outclassed as far as a champion perspective in that team fight. So the small advantages they have early, they're trying to push really hard.
At what point do we say it's not enough? Bjergsen with Svenskeren inside RNG's red buff. It's still only a 400 gold game. Items have been picked up, and up in the top lane, Looper's now going to be in trouble. The recipient of another dive. No flash available for Sven, but a good stun from the Slicing Maelstrom. This should be a relatively easy kill, unless MLXG can get involved. Looking at the minimap, Xiaohu's coming up from the jungle, and Sven's in trouble. Onslaught of Shadows available. MLXG jumps out, but Sven gets away. Unfortunately, Haunts has found Xiaohu. Xiaohu not going to use the Petrifying Gaze, and Sven makes it out alive.
Another time Svenskeren outplays MLXG, this time a lot closer, but that has to get into the head of the young jungler from RNG.
We've seen some pretty sick Lee Sin plays already at Worlds between Revolta and the defeated BDG and Svenskeren so far in this game. Just the gank itself was quite clean. I mean, this is the Rumble and the Lee Sin gank setup. It's a very strong combination. Stun, can't miss that Q, gets the kick. This is the easy part for TSM. It's the escape that's troubling. MLXG has the challenging smite. Looks like he's going to be able to get the damage, and Svenskeren knows MLXG has ultimate.
And just misses right there because he's able to dash to a minion. Don't know whether MLXG thought maybe he was out of energy there, but looked like he had a fair amount left, so just a big miscalculation.
2 kills of the game to Svenskeren for TSM, and Biofrost. It's again playing very far forward, threatening the poke. It's Bjergsen that's the recipient. 142 CS to 111. He's leading the way and really giving Xiaohu a difficult time in that lane.
Yeah, the Orianna has always been known as a strong laner. Bjergsen as well has been an incredibly strong laner. But so much of the assault from TSM does seem to come from Sven, and if he can make these plays happen, since Bjergsen has such an advantage in the mid lane, it's about his roams.
I'm gonna find the CC from Double Lift the Biofrost. Sonic Wave fishing just a little bit, not really sniffing anything out. Teleport is not available for either top laner, so this could be a 4-on-4, but TSM is slightly tighter grouped. Xiaohu would have to come in from a flank, and TSM, they're committing to this buff steal.
One more time, disciplined play out of RNG. They back away. They're giving away a lot of advantages right now. It's out to a 1,000 gold lead, but they just feel like they cannot fight at this stage of the game. And if that's the case, don't give away a bigger advantage. I agree with the call, but you have to think when they do start to try and take these fights, because right now it is starting a snowball.
Yeah, getting the Ocean Drake is very good for TSM as the lane phase extends here. This is a really strange game from RNG that I've seen.
Svenskeren has found who delivers the shockwave. That was exceptional. TSM are not done yet. Uzi and Mata, they were going toe-to-toe. Sven connects with another sonic wave. That thing is not missing today. Sven's going to back away from that fight. There was definitely a fight in the bottom lane. Ultimates and summoner spells were used.
Svenskaren's on fire. Yeah. I mean, he's absolutely torching the entire RNG lineup right now. The last second takes the Q and just blows up Xiaohu, and now that mid lane turret's gonna fall down.
Yeah, this has been a bit of the Svenskeren show, but I also kind of want to double back to RNG, because I was one of RNG's biggest advocates running up into this tournament, thinking about the individual skill of these guys and how they could win lanes, and then maybe they could have the communication to transition to the team fights. What I did not expect were losing lanes all across the map with a weak early pressure jungler. That was the surprising thing. But watching this play one more time, kicks him first, guarantees the Q land, then followed him over. But
sorry, Jack got to jump back. Double lift's in trouble. He will go down. Uzi and Mata, they win the 2v2. Level 9 and 8. Now Biofrost is a target. Uzi and Mata decide not to dive. No Unbreakable will, but here comes MLXG. Onslaught of Shadows is available, and Biofrost needs to back away.
And RNG kind of silencing two critics at one time. The critics that are telling them to stop camping for Uzi, who's the only successful lane right now, as well as the fact that that's one against the tide. Do want to go back to your point, however, how well Haunter and Bjergsen has set up successful top side of the map right now has meant that the gameplay out of RNG has to go bottom lane because no one else is winning.
Exactly, and the Sivir can have tremendous late game scaling as well as Mata being the man to set everything up. That is RNG's way of getting back into the game, because even though there's a 40 CS differential in the mid lane, Xiaohu and Looper will be effective once they're able to get their items, if they're able to get to the late game. It's about RNG actually being able to lower the number of fights and continue to wave clear and work around Mata's engagement.
And with that comes actual vision control. It's good to see, you know, a couple members go back, pick up the pinks. You need to be able to sweep out those deep flanks. Teleport's nearly available from the cannon. We've already seen Svenskeren behind enemy lines so many times. As we take another look at that bottom lane play, this is just Mata walking at the duo. And honestly, Biofrost and Doublelift don't have vision and don't respect it.
Oopsie.
Yeah, not good play there by TSM. Biofrost then completely misses the bubble onto Uzi from the looks of it.
Oh, and it's happening again. This is not a replay. This is live. Biofrost gets taken down once more. RNG really focusing the rookie on the international stage.
Yeah, the control of the river is also gone, and TSM is still trying to get it back without actually having jungler and mid lane assistance. So that is Doublelift and Biofrost greeting for that play, and Uzi and Mata having the appropriate answer.
And this allows RNG to keep that gold deficit of 2,000 gold. They even out the kills 3-3, and big items have already been picked up. Proto Belts, both top laners, Abyssal and Morella Nomicon for mid laners. Essence Reaver Zeal into the Ghost Blade, as far as AD carries are concerned. And look at those two wards for RNG in the bottom half of the map. If Doublelift and Biofrost go too far forward, those are very juicy TP wards to get in behind. Actually, one of them just timed out, so Doublelift's going to have a little bit of...
Svenskaren's caught.
Svenskeren is caught.
Ooh.
Gets over the wall. Good reaction time.
So that's a bad thing about the banana brush, I guess. He was spotted by the ward, but because he placed it on the very tip, the pink ward doesn't actually see the green ward, so he was spotted out in his counter jungling venture. Mata went for the play, but wasn't able to pick it up, and now TSM pushing it on this bottom lane, and Svenskeren is corralling.
Right, they're actually trying to send assistance to this side of the map here to try and get the third outer turret, and they're kind of rotating their strength instead of just having Biofrost and Doublelift on their own, and that's what TSM need to do if they want to keep control of this game.
And one more time, Mata walks up to the turret and RNG jerk him back. They just give it away. This is the third turret going down. It's back out to nearly 3,000 gold the lead, but RNG is playing very disciplined.
Spawn, everybody at home can't see just how shocked your eyebrows truly are. This level of discipline and patience from RNG, how surprising is this?
This is unprecedented. Even when they were a great team and they beat EDG in spring, it was by taking very risky team fights in the jungle and smashing people through quicker reaction time and better coordination around team fights. I've actually never seen an RNG lineup play this slow and disciplined in the early game.
Do you think this is a symptom or a consequence of the boot camp and really wanting to show up at Worlds?
I think it has to be. I mean, they must be looking towards 5v5 team fighting because teams are beating them in the macro play.
Speaking of which, there's the teleport from Looper.
Oh, this is scary. TSM is slightly split. Horns not going to join yet. Marta gets a double knock-up and double lift is down. Biofrost sends out the tidal wave. It does nothing. Horns is looking for Uzi. Svenskerin's going to find him. That's a 2-for-1 so far, but it will not matter. Shockwave gets 2. Bjergsen's forced to run for his life. A 4-for-1 in favor of RNG.
And that fight was a massacre in the favor of RNG. Doublelift didn't have a chance to react in that one. He was in the river where they haven't had pressure all game, yet he consistently keeps going back there. The Hecarim just destroys him as the Rumble Lock comes down, and then they even extend farther to try and kill Uzi. While Bjergsen was on the other side of the fight, it was a very poorly played fight by TSM overall, and the patience that RNG had throughout most of the mid-game was rewarded right there as they set up a very nice team fight.
At least their team fighting still looks the same. Deep teleport coming out. We had already pointed out so many times how RNG likes to do this, and Marta, without hesitation, flash pulse, gets Uzi back into the team, and they blow everyone up. Only Uzi being the casualty. I meant double lift, of course.
Yeah, and then Hanser completes his teleport. They could have bailed out there, but they end up bringing the flash on the Kennen and the Lee Sin, only to both fall. And Bjergsen, because he'd taken the other route around, ends up ceding 3 kills to Xiaohu. And RNG, with an incredibly scary team-fighting team, made it to 20 minutes with an 800 gold deficit.
And all of a sudden, the one lane that was really snowballing out of control, 40 CS in the mid lane, now has 4 kills on the Cassiopeia and 2 completed items. RNG re-seized control of the team fights.
Such a big swing in momentum. RNG looking to contest that blue buff, decided against it though. Instead, peeled away, focused the tower. That will be the second tower of the game. Really easily picked up, and it is an even game at 21.5 minutes.
They don't take the jungle fight, they take the top lane turret. RNG with a semblance of macro play, dare I say it. Prioritizing the correct objective here and getting good deep vision control.
Yeah, a lot of practice, I would have to imagine, coming in for these guys and really trying to show up at Worlds. It's not like they had a terrible showing at the Mid-Season Invitational before they changed out the AD carry. Then they were playing faster than people were expecting, but still that requires a macro sense in the game. It definitely feels like they may have changed philosophies just a little bit, especially in the draft phase here, going for the Alistar, which is completely unexpected, but being able to avoid the punishment, and then now capitalizing on the mid-game.
And of course, this is one of the best macro supports of all time. We're still talking about Marta. He hasn't played this way recently, but I'm sure with some preparation, going away for a month, really having some deep reflection, he said that he wasn't playing for the laning phase, that he was playing more to win the rest of the map. And it looks like with some studying, has actually got a very good grasp on the current meta, because they lost the early part of the laning phase, but then brought it back.
Look at that vision. Thank you, observers, for highlighting it. That allowed them to take that tower earlier. Very safe, very securely. Items continuing to spike up here. Infinity Edge closer and closer for Uzi. He's got that crit cloak as well as a BF sword and a Zeal. It's just getting very, very scary for TSM. An even game at 22 minutes against that scaling and that teamfight power.
And this is a build that Uzi goes when they want to stall out games, because it's incredible wave clear. I mean, you get an auto attack, you send down the ricochet, you send down the boomerang, and it pretty much clears out any wave. And that is going to deter a lot of the dives coming out. Just the flat AD is very good. Uzi's also always been a little bit of a gambling man. If he can go pickaxe or the crit cloak, he'll always go crit cloak. He does believe in the RNG and will try and win team fights off the back end of 1 or 2 crits.
Hey, it's in front of his tag. So but for TSM, how do they bring themselves now back into this game? They've still got very strong champions at this stage in the game.
Yeah. I think they try and get picks, and they try and capitalize on the fact that MLXG is a challenging smite jungler without Sightstone. So the amount of vision control that RNG can get out on the map is actually somewhat limited. It's not too uncommon in the LPL, actually, for the mid laner to ward more than the jungler, so expect Xiaohu to keep the warding trinket for a long period of time and consistently replenish pink wards on the map, but it does leave a potential hole in vision if TSM do want to try and get picks, and they set it up with Lee Sin, Kennen, Orianna ultimates, and have Doublelift just stay in the back, because RNG has picked a team that can just absolutely obliterate him if he gets close.
Good damage from Svenskeren. MLXG gonna use that speed boost to get up, but Bjergsen's caught, he's down, he's dead, they got him.
Mata got him again. He's 100% kill participation. That was a flash pulverize that ended up catching Bjergsen. And then they popped the grounded on him from Cassiopeia, so he can't even flash away. Beautiful pick and kill by RNG.
Gonna allow them access into TSM's jungle. Haunter gets caught once again. Grounded by that Cassiopeia. Xiaohu now trying to back away. Kill onto Mata. Svenskeren forced out. Red buff traded for Mata's life.
So this is one of the weaknesses of RNG. They do invade, they get picked off. This time, however, they choose not to fight. They still have the equalizer as well as MLXG's ultimate, but they just cede the lost life, I guess, of their support player. They traded it for Bjergsen and a red buff. I'm going to say worth, but right now, this is how TSM actually get back into this. They continue to prey on the bad tendencies of RNG that are still visible in their gameplay.
Yeah, and this is just another example of how unpredictable I feel like Worlds can be. This game is such a unique set of circumstances, having to remake that first game and then the champion select being completely changed up. And Mata is actually the one showing up more so than anyone else. Flash to an instant headbutt, pulverize into a Cassiopeia Miasma. No chance for Bjergsen, but then as Spawn says, they push their luck and trade a kill back for a red buff.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. I mean, that's a W buffer, a headbutt buffer into the immediate pulverize. There's nothing that really Bjergsen can do there if he's not quick enough on the initial reaction. Gets comboed into the CC. Mata's Alistar really is impressive.
Yeah, and I think this game is going to become very tense right now. You have 5 turrets down overall in the game. Only TSM's middle turret is the remaining outer turret on the game. The goal this close, RNG has shown a propensity for being able to find team fights kind of based on Mata's flash cooldown. So much of this has to do with vision control, not getting caught out by RNG, and finding the right way to pick up the objectives. What's interesting is despite all the team fight losses, TSM still have 2 Drakes, and that is going to help them at least a little bit in trying to play around objectives.
Yeah, completely agree, and they also still have superior map vision. I mean, right now they're pushing RNG, who is a stronger 5v5 team, with all of their ultimates available, off vision right now. And maybe it's just that, you know, TSM weighed in numbers, but RNG also sitting off the bot lane wave, not really challenging the split push right now coming out of Cannon. They really do look like they're still happy to stall this one out.
Now, of course, for RNG, that scaling still on their side. For TSM, pressure. You know, they came out the gates swinging early, and a couple of winning lanes, Svenskeren went off. But it didn't generate enough of a lead to gain any semblance of control. And now they have to go toe-to-toe with one of the best team fighting teams in the world. No hesitation. So rarely missed skill shots on the side of RNG, and that's a tough, tough mountain to climb.
Yeah, and the backline damage of RNG with Sivir and Cassiopeia and Rumble is immense, and they still are able to pick a tank line with the Hecarim and the Alistar. So as far as getting the right team fights, they're very well prepared for that. But let's also not discount TSM's ability to start team fights. Until you see mega tanks on the side of RNG, the mid-game power spike here from a 3-item Orianna as well as a Protobell Kennen can obliterate the damage dealers if they get the right fight. So it is on RNG to not let that happen, continue shoving out these waves and continue to extend the game.
And you know, I'm a little bit more confident on the reliability to get that shockwave because I've been seeing how Svenskeren's playing on this Lee Sin. If he penetrates the backline the way he has been the entirety of this game so far, that's going to be an easy delivery system. Haunter can look for the big flanks. But that's one thing that RNG has done well. They haven't controlled vision past the river, but in their own jungle right now, they have kept those big, deep flanking wards out.
No real deep vision for TSM inside RNG's jungle yet, but the river control around Baron at 28 minutes is very, very good. They've got a lot of damage dealers as well if they wanted to. Trying to force RNG's hand. Pressure now in the mid lane. Sonic Wave, as well as a Deadly Flourish, not really doing anything to Uzi.
2-for-1 special on the spell shield there.
Yep. And TSM now trying to push that vision deeper. Risky. If they get that team fight, however, if they pull RNG towards them and then pull the trigger, Maelstrom and Shockwave, that could be game ending.
Yeah, and they do have good vision control where it matters right now. The Ocean Drake is live. It could be the second Ocean Drake of the game for TSM, and they're moving towards that. The question is this what RNG wants? They have the Scuttle Crab, they have wards they can teleport on, and they have Flash on Mata, so TSM have to be very careful. So I think we're going to see
Teleport coming in.
Teleport just behind the Dragon Pit, secured by RNG. MLXG gets the smite down. And Svenskeren comes away worse for wear. That's Dragon number 1 for Royal.
Teleport advantage picked up right now for TSM. Mid lane priority very heavily in Royal's favor. We'll see where the Haunter does look for a teleport play because there is vision behind RNG.
I think playing the teleport game against this RNG team composition is an incredibly dangerous game because of the swiftness in which they initiate. The fight could be over by the time you're able to match it with a teleport. So RNG get the mid lane turret. Haunter should be able to get this one back. And now maybe we see some Baron control seated over. This is interesting.
Oh, Equalizer used just to try and push that wave down, I feel. Looper not doing the best. Haunter trades a tower. So in at bottom, losing Dragon for mid outer. RNG 30 minutes in, still even in the important metrics and ahead in kills.
RNG definitely wanted that team fight. You could see that Mata was positioning very aggressively. They dropped the equalizer. They don't get it, so a missed opportunity right now for RNG. But you can see how desperate they are to find these 5v5s, willing to challenge for Dragon, even with limited vision, willing to burn that teleport, and TSM actually keep them at bay and get a positive trade.
And I'm really curious to see how the rest of this game is going to turn out, since we're pretty much locked up in gold and RNG have the stronger team fighting composition. Because so much of RNG's game plan during the regular season is just force it Baron, make the other team come for you, that'll do it. Now there's a teleport advantage for TSM. Will TSM be able to use this against them, or would the brute force of RNG be able to win out?
I remember us talking in terms of the prep coming into this, how RNG had moved away from that heavy ganking style of gameplay and moved more into that, if I recall correctly, jungle invading and vision style spawn. And that's sort of how this game played out. Mata got first blood onto Svenskeren via a great invade, has comboed with Uzi multiple times. This time, however, Svenskeren is able to get away.
And that right there is a swing and a miss. They burned the Sivir ultimate. They don't even really gain much more vision control, and Svenskeren just got to ward hop away. All the while, they still have that teleport advantage on TSM's side.
They completely do, but you can see how much more reactive TSM is now, waiting for some more items to come out. Honestly, this game feels like a time bomb now for RNG, because this is their style of League of Legends. Heavy 5v5 focus. Looper is the one that calls the teleport, and he's always been a very good teleport player, whatever you want to say about the rest of his play. And you feel like they do have the superior setup right now. The important thing for TSM is wrestle that back. Don't give it up, because that's when RNG gets a little bit antsy and will maybe take a poor team fight to get things started up.
And I think a lot of it comes down to execution. I think RNG is now favored in this game, evidenced by TSM playing a reactive style. And they have a lot of tools to be able to force fights with the Sivir, Alistar, Hecarim, and Rumble.
Look at the minimap, look at the minimap. Mata's trying to find a flank.
Mata's
I think
way
he's going to get in
behind him.
behind TSM. TSM could be in trouble. There's a bunch of wards north and south of TSM's position, but Looper, no teleport available, so I'm getting a bit too excited. Mata decides to back away.
Yeah, they call him off one more time. I mean, Mata backs away, and they know that time is still in their favor. He's looking for it one more time. He was spotted out. Svenskeren?
Oh, again, looking for it on the hunt. Good flash.
Oh my goodness.
Three-man knockup. TSM are getting destroyed. They've already lost two. Bjergsen and Svenskeren trying to run for their lives. The shockwave's already used. Haunter goes golden, but he's going to get taken down. Knocked up once again by Mata. Mata still with 100% kill participation. RNG go for Baron.
And that was just TSM not respecting the flank, because they had a ward in the Raptor pit, a ward in the brush. They knew he was coming. They threw the gauntlet, and they get destroyed.
And they knew they really wanted to fight. Now RNG has 5 people at Baron. This would be a disastrous steal if Svenskeren able to get it. But Mata is so good on Alistar. The reactive flash by Bjergsen, good reaction time. But the fact that Mata didn't even care about that, and he saw the real prize, which was the 3-man pulverize, was excellent.
Give me Alistar and I will win you the game. Svenskeren greeds for Uzi here. Headbutt onto Bjergsen, but massive pulverize.
And then the CC is dodged by RNG. Looper Zonia's the shockwave as well as the cannon ultimate. Xiaohu is just ghosting back away from the cannon ultimate. And Uzi is also staying for DPS at the back of the fight. This is what we talk about when we say RNG are the best team fighter.
And this is why you don't team fight them. Individually, there was not one mistake made by an RNG member that time around. And they are so individually gifted that as long as they have Mata on a strong initiator, the rest of the team just follows up. And it always works out.
Yeah, does seem to be the case right now. Focus down the bottom lane. Haunter just gets dropped. so easy for RNG. Onslaught of Shadows and on the hunt with Baron buff, they're pushing the tower.
That's the thing. They have an Alistair ultimate still up to try and tank the turret. The Rumble ultimate is still up. Hotzer is dead for another 40 seconds. How much can RNG get off this? Their Baron power play already up at 2,700 gold.
And I said the reason I like Kennen is because not only the initiation, but the anti-dive the champion brings. Without him on the board, it is a much more realistic prospect that Mata gets underneath that turret and does try and start up one of these team fights.
And here's the thing, RNG actually pull back yet again. Instead of waiting for the next minion wave while Hauntzer is dead and trying to dive an inhibitor turret, they move mid, they play the vision, they're going for the easier turret, the outer in the mid lane.
Another initiation tool gone for TSM right now, and it is still RNG jockeying for position around the map.
Mata steps on the trap, is going to get triggered. No flash available this time around, not even needed. Just the presence alone of Mata allows another tower to fall.
This is bizarre.
It's been a rather bizarre day, I would say. But at the same time, when we were walking into this game, I did not see TSM as heavy favorites against RNG. I saw them as slight favorites against RNG, and it really depended on how well RNG had practiced since their disappointing final in the LCS. Looks like they practiced pretty well.
Another easy kill.
And just one more time, not respecting vision control, MLXG continues the chase, but really it's Hauntzer they want.
It is Hauntzer they want. Hourglass is available. Biofrost actually throws down the tidal wave, anticipating more aggression. And chat, you were saying it. RNG, they've come in looking phenomenally well prepared, exquisitely disciplined, and they're just playing fantastic League of Legends.
Yeah, and I think what Spawn was talking about this being odd is just, look at the mid lane. They're down 90 CS, but they're up 70 CS, where they actually were in a disadvantaged matchup early in the game, and that matchup was never able to be exploited by TSM, who had been such a dominant bottom lane domestically.
And really, this wasn't MLXG camping out for Uzi.
Not at all.
This was Mata joining up with MLXG, finding the enemy jungler, being able to punish, and actually get MLXG back into the game, because you have to remember, Svenskeren was styling on RNG's jungler earlier on.
On the hunt was thrown down, in fact.
Yeah, they see Bjergsen again.
Shockwave doesn't hit anybody. Bjergsen just gets run down. Cut through like a hot knife through butter. 50 seconds on the death time in RNG. They're setting their sights on the inhibitor turrets.
TSM at this point in the game look out of sorts. They have been caught so many times, and now Sven tries to go in. They're trying to engage.
A lot of damage on the Xiaohu. That is the shutdown, but the equalizer gets one back into Svenskeren. Hauntzer, the gate is closed. He gets booted backwards. Knocked out goes Golden. Will get shut down by RNG. MLXG's not done. Mata finds double lift, and Uzi gets the triple kill with the boomerang, and they go back for the base.
And with no hesitation, RNG pull the trigger into the base. They're going to open this one up, and it might even be game.
Yeah, Bjergsen's still down for 15, 40 seconds on Hauntzer and double lift. Uzi is huge, 7 kills. They're going for the game.
They are indeed. The Nexus turret is the focus. MLXG's got a GA, not even gonna need it. Nexus turret number 2, RNG take down TSM. RNG destroy the hometown heroes and are victorious against Team SoloMid.
And after the events that transpired before this game even happened, the Aurelion Sol pick by RNG, not being able to play it, having picks and bans remade, and Lee Sin taken away from them, they let none of this phase them. They played smart, they played respectfully, and they played dominantly against TSM.
And they were willing to give up that early game advantage, continue to seed out objective after objective, 2 turrets, 2 dragons. But when they felt they were strong, they are still such a decisive team fighting team. And they really did show that against North America's best.
What a message RNG have sent rippling through the World Championship. We need to see this level of coordination and control through multiple games.
Yep.
But that is a very, very strong testament to where their maximum capabilities could end up.
And there's no question about it. RNG can play it at 10. I mean, Mata said at MSI, if I had Uzi as my AD carry, I would have won the tournament. So that's what they're obviously going for here. However, can they continue to play at the 10 is a big question for this team.
Exactly. Group stage alone is 2 weeks long, and we are now 1 day into Worlds. So a lot is yet to happen, but this is a very disappointing loss for TSM. People expect them to win the group. They definitely expect them to beat RNG if that is the case. And they expect them to be able to win 2v2 matchups when they have the favorable champions. But they, in some senses of this, got 1v2'd by Uzi while Mata roamed around the rest of the map. So massive respect from Mata and Uzi for the faith in themselves to do that and then their ability to execute.
And massive respect for picking up the Alistar again. It's a pick that we've seen fall away. He was playing a lot of Braum, a lot of Tahm Kench, but he throws himself in the crunch. I mean, a lot of their pick ban with the Lee Sin being picked away got thrown back in their face. And they were still able to get the correct ingredients to put together that 5v5 comp.
And it worked out absolutely perfectly. For TSM, still a pretty good early game despite the 2v2 not going the way they wanted. I think every other role kind of showed up, but it wasn't enough of a lead. Even with the compositional advantages, they didn't have the strength to pull through.
I guess we had some questions for TSM coming into this. The question that was answered in this is that Haunter is legit a really classy top laner because Looper is a good Rumble player. Haunter beat him out there. Bjergsen stepped up once again on the international stage. But it really is that bottom lane duo that you would expect to take that laning phase handedly.
Yeah, it seemed to me like TSM couldn't actually pull the trigger with their early game moves. They had massive advantages in the lane. They took a blue buff steal, they took a red buff steal, but RNG was never taking the bait and contesting them on those objectives, which I think is what TSM was probably expecting to be able to snowball the game ahead. And then it stretched and RNG were the ones to pick the proper fights.
And I mean,
great.
Picking a proper fight, that 20-minute dragon fight where Xiaohu managed to pick up the triple kill, that really sealed the deal. You know, all of that momentum, all the positive lead that TSM have built up just got ruined by being a little too far in that river.
As I said, Bjergsen was up 40 CS at that stage of the game, and giving over a triple kill to Xiaohu, not only the fact that it was a one-team fight, catapulted the Cassiopeia back into the game where she had previously been shut out. So maybe a stroke of good luck there with who the kills went to, but definitely a fantastic team fight selected by RNG.
Yeah, and we are heaping praise on Mata, I think, because he deserves it in this game. And it's still a very young group stage. All these teams have 5 more games to play. Very little is decided, but this has been a wild first day of Worlds.
Involved in 16 of the team's 17 kills. We're going to head down to Shox, who's standing by us with Royal Never Gives Up victorious support.
Thank you very much, guys. Indeed, standing by with Mata, who has a lot of fans here cheering for him and had a fantastic game on Alistar. And a lot of people were looking at that bottom lane matchup of you guys versus Doublelift and Biofrost. How do you think you guys did? How do you think the lane matchup went?
마타 선수 우선 알리스타의 멋진 활약으로 승리 거둔 것을 축하드립니다. 이번 TSM과의 경기에서 많은 사람들이 이제 RNG 바텀 듀오랑 이제 TSM 바텀 듀오의 그 대결에 대해서 관심을 이제 표출하고 있었는데 어땠었나요, 경기가?
일단 첫 경기라서 좀 부담이 많이 있었는데 그래도 승리하게 돼서 좋고요. 사실 재경기를 하게 돼가지고 좀 불리하다 생각을 했는데 그래도 저희 팀 믿고 같이 게임 해가지고 저희가 이길 수 있었던 것 같아요.
Because it was our first game of a tournament, we were really worried and pressured, and also the remake also, I thought that it would have some kind of negative influence on us. But I'm glad our teammates were able to group together once more, and I'm also glad that we were able to win.
A fantastic start to Worlds for RNG. You guys didn't have the best summer split in the LPL. Rocky, not a lot of people know what to expect from you guys as a team. So can you tell us what are your expectations with RNG this World?
RNG 팀이 이번 LPL 이제 썸머 시즌에는 다소 이제 좀 불안한 경기력을 보이면서 많은 팬들이 RNG 팀으로부터 이번 대회 성적을 좀 이제 예상하기 되게 어려웠었는데 지금 RNG 팀 내부적으로 이번 대회에 대해 거는 기대가 어떻게 되는지 말씀해 주세요.
사실 뭐 크게 기대는 하지 않지만 그래도 저희가 경기를 많이 하다 보면은 자신감도 많이 찾고 충분히 좋은 성적 낼 수 있을 거라 생각이 들어요.
Honestly, we don't have our hopes too high, but I think as we play more games and as we progress, I think our team can get better and our players can also improve. So I think we can have a bit more hopes as the tournament progresses.
Okay, well, of course, there's a lot of history in that lane. You, of course, the winner in 2014 playing against Uzi. Then how much will you guys be able to do as a duo here at Worlds?
지금 같이 바텀 듀오를 서고 있는 우지 선수는 이제 2014년에 마타 선수가 롤드컵을 우승했을 때 상대편으로서 이제 같이 있던 선수인데 같이 이제 바텀 듀오를 하면서 이제 어떤 시너지를 내고 있는지 말씀해 주세요.
일단 우지 선수가 라인전에 대해서 최고라고 생각하기 때문에 라인전에서 저도 배울 게 많아가지고 그거를 통해 가지고 저희가 팀 게임 할 때 아주 좋은 뭐라 해야 되지? 그러니까 협력 플레이를 같이 할 수 있는 것 같아요.
I think Uzi has the best laning phase as an ADC in the whole world. So I'm also personally learning a lot from him. And as playing as a duo, I think we're putting in a lot of synergy, good synergy to our team, not only limit to the lane phase, but also to the entire game management and team fight as a whole.
Final question. There was a lot of hype surrounding TSM, of course, because we're playing here in North America as well. Do you still see them getting out of groups? And who are the two teams advancing?
그 이제 TSM 팀이 물론 여기가 이제 미국이라는 점도 있지만 많은 기대를 지금 모으고 있었습니다. 대회 이전까지. 지금 경기를 해보니까 TSM 팀이 8강 진출을 할 수 있을 것 같은지 아니면 좀 더 크게 8강에 이번 지금 죽음의 조라 불리는 D조에서 어느 두 팀이 8강에 진출할 것 같은지 말씀해 주세요.
일단 한 팀은 저희 팀이 올라갔으면 좋겠고요. 그리고 나머지 한 팀은 사실 모든 16팀이 경기력이 사실 그렇게 많이 차이 난다고 생각하지 않아요. 그래가지고 아마 마지막 날까지 가봐야 순위를 쉽게 알 수 있을 것 같아요.
Hopefully, our team will secure the first spot. And to be honest, I think that all 16 teams here contending at Worlds, the skill gap isn't as large as before. So I think all teams have a good chance to advance to the quarterfinals. So I think I'd have to see until the last day of the group stage to see which team will advance with us.
Yeah, of course, it was only the first game, but congratulations, Mata, on that victory. And he says that Jat was right all along, it seems. Let's go over to the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Shocks. RNG taking the final victory of day one. And gentlemen, I turn to you and on behalf of all NA fans, say, damn you.
It's not a matter if the gap is closing, it's how far you can jump.
What? What is that? I don't understand what that is.
Nailed it.
No. All right, but talk to me because all three of you
That's
predicted the TSM victory here going into this sixth game. And
I mean-
of course, that's not what happened. Although they did have a pretty dominant early game, especially Svenskeren.
I mean, start of the day, Europe lets me down. 0-2 in predictions. I turn to the crowd, they're wrong, and they start leaving.
Yeah, look, they've
I
all evacuated.
I feel this is my childhood all over again. Everybody keeps leaving me.
Well, Papa's right here.
I'm right here next to you. Look, we all predicted TSM to take it down, but as Jat was saying, this wasn't a 80-20. This wasn't a 70-30. This was a where's RNG at? And the answer was, as you know, especially the LPL caster on the desk, Spawn, was saying, controlled, smart, not over pursuing for fights. And this was just a different RNG. And suddenly, the texture of this Group D, the Group of Death, it's all up to play for.
And we'll get to see it in the replay, but I really like the moment where RNG was finally able to grab a hold onto the game by really, I think, reading onto what TSM's plan was. If you saw them from the regular season, you know that they're very predictable in how they invade. They will always contest pretty much every single buff, and we saw that in the beginning, contesting red, blue buff over and over and over, even picking up a kill on MLXG, greeting out for the blue buff, as Crepo had mentioned, but they were able to actually do it well and get a lot of kills out of that.
So now before we get to that moment that you're talking about, I do want to take a second to recognize a player who individually played like a monster in Svenskeren on that Lee Sin. We saw with the remake, they opted to first pick it, and he went off on this champion.
I mean, just he understands what it means to hold your Q until the right time. In this exchange, he waited for Hecarim to go over the wall. In a later exchange, he'll wait to use his Q to get close enough so that the Orianna Pal can get on top of him. He can travel the wall there. Like, he's just so smart. The fact that here again, you know, he's like, should I path down? No, because then I endanger a 2-man ulti. So instead, he's going for the 1-man escape here into dash to dodge the Hecarim ulti. Not only does he drag Hecarim away from his teammate, the impending collapse here. This is the beauty. Holds Q, gets the ball on him, then follows after flash, and that combo. Ooh.
My favorite part is the fact that he walks up onto the brush. You recognize that Cassiopeia is looking to flash over, that she's looking to use the ultimate away, and you position yourself away from the Orianna so that either the ult hits one or the other, and she's basically doomed to die.
Yeah, it was absolutely fabulous play out of him, but as you mentioned, not enough. Because with this early game pressure, with the lead that was built in the top lane, and that 40 CS lead in the mid lane, RNG, they found their time to strike 19 minutes into the game around the Dragon Pit, 4 for 1 in favor.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. They're going for the blue buff invade, but Mara sees the opportunity right from the get-go, and just a beautiful chain of CC onto the Rumble ultimate. And TSM, instead of abandoning this situation, which is a clear 4v5, they keep going in and they try to take this fight, and it's not going to work out for them.
And this has always been RNG's forte. This team fighting, the decisiveness, just pull the trigger and go. The problem is that they had some issues in the setup before that. Like, when we say macro, we mean map movements, we mean objective setups, we don't mean when to fight. Because RNG, they're so decisive when it comes to team fighting. Like, and they can pull out leads or come back from like 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 gold deficits, and they have in the past with genius team fighting. And here they just all pulled the trigger together. The TP came in. It was marvelous.
And we spent the whole EDG game kind of ragging on Mouse, right? Mouse wasn't an impressive performer. They're not the best top laner in his league either, but Looper is the best top laner in the LPL. Former world champion, but of course, he was very much the 5th member of an all-star team. When he first went over to China, Mato I'm talking about here, it was Dandy Mato putting down wards, pretty much the old story. Now he's back with Looper, and this duo always had excellent teleports. It was out of frame in that replay, but the teleport from Looper was just majestic, best teleport of the game by far, and that's what opened it up. And then the next replay we get into, then it's going to be all about.
Yeah, let's push us to that. 32 minutes in, this is just where it all ends for TSM, and everything's great for RNG.
Just
3-for-0.
Keep your eyes out on Mata again. This guy with Flash is just such an absolute monster, and as soon as the Sivir ulti comes in, that's when you know they're happening.
There's more to
surprise cow with
Watch the fact that we also get the grounded effect. So when the 3-man pole on top of the equalizer, on top of the no ability to flash out, that was majestic.
Honestly,
layering.
it's play of dreams. You don't really think about these plays being able to be executed so well with the CC with the layered abilities that it's quite magical to watch these guys do it. I mean, I would have never dreamed of being able to pull something like this.
Yeah, and they make it seem easy because they're playing Sivir Alistar into Jhin Nami, and if you play that matchup, I think in an even skill bot lane, Jhin Nami will smash that to pieces. You have one kind of shell in your shotgun that you have to use, which is usually the flash in lane, but Mata, he used this flash outside of lane, came back, and they still won. They completely outclassed Bifrost and Doublelift.
I mean, the language you used to describe what this 2v2 lane was, the moment Alistar, remember, Alistar was the last pick into a terrible 2v2 lane phase. Not broadcast appropriate, what Frepo said. Regardless, they took the gamble, just like we've seen other players take the gamble of champions that leave lane, like the Poppy from Darshan that paid off there. The Alistar was for outside of lane. He wanted to make the plays, and he made those plays.
And just Mata's Alistar, like, he can't be stated enough. Everybody's like up about it, like on the internet, like in Twitter and stuff, and saying like how great it is, but it is like it is truly.
How great is it?
It's greater than, greater than that.
I can't swear because they'll fire me, but like it's effing fantastic. It's just like he understands the right moment to go for an aggressive combo where anybody else would hesitate fraction of a second, and that would lead to somebody escaping. Maybe he gets flashed. Like, he is so aware of game-changing plays, and he not only does that once, twice, thrice, he does it like 5 times in his game alone.
And the implication for the future match is insane because these guys picked one of the worst lanes into this and were able to perform so amazingly. Like, what do you do against this? What are they going to do with Nami?
I got to jump in here, guys, because while we're talking about Mata, we might as well award him the player of the game before I let you continue talking about Mata. 1, 2, and 15 on the Alistar. 94.1% kill participation. I mean, it all started with him, with the Lee Sin flash blown. That early invade out of lane off the first back, capitalizing on the blown flashes in the mid lane.
They'll have to ban the Alistar because of the implication.
Of course.
But I mean, think about the risk-taking here. Last pick Alistar, not good in lane. He took Ignite against a cannon. It's almost always automatic exhaust. Thunder Cow is, of course, the way he goes, the more offensive choice. It's basically all-out offense, all-out playmaking, and all-out MVP.
And actually, that first blood was a pretty nice macro play from RNG itself. You saw Zhao, who he puts an aggressive pink ward, then puts a green ward into the Raptor camp, and then immediately you see MLXG come in with Mata, and they recognize that Svenskeren used the safeguard on himself. Nice and easy setup, and that's really intelligent play to set your laner, set somebody else up with your own vision, and it's hard to predict that from TSM's side.
Well, NA's sweethearts in TSM suffer a defeat at the hands of RNG here on day 1. And with our first day of Worlds 2016 completed, let's take a look at how each group stands. Now, CLG and ROX are tied atop Group A. AHQ and INTZ share first place in Group C. And in Group D, Samsung Galaxy and Royal Never Give Up lead the way. Group B plays their first games of the tournament tomorrow. And that's scheduled for tomorrow. The action continues for 6 more group stage matches kicking off at 4 p.m. Pacific, 8 a.m. p.m. Korea Standard Time. First up, see the defending champs in action for the first time at Worlds 2016 as SK Telecom T1 takes on Cloud9. Then LMS's champs, Flash Wolves, face China's IMA. So, gentlemen, that's just the first 2 of the 6 matches, but I turn to you. What perhaps is the match of the 6 that you're most looking forward to tomorrow?
And we're starting the day with a showstopper. This is SKT versus C9. This is SKT Impact now. C9 Impact taking on his old team. World champions on both sides. This is one that sells itself. Super hype.
It's going to be a fantastic cast, too, I've been told.
Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah?
Who's
Why
on
is
it?
that?
Wait,
huh?
who's
Papa Smithy's on there.
That's true. That's
Oh,
true.
all right. Okay, well, then
At
I'll
least
give
they
it
got
to you.
Papa Smithy.
All right, well, yeah.
Somebody's got to carry Crebo.
Oh.
That was such a downer way to end the note. Tell me something happy, Crumbs.
NA won more than the EU.
There it is. All right, well, be sure to stick around after the show for a look at all the day's action as Riv sits down with Jat and Officio in an all-new Worlds tonight. That's going to do it for us, though. So on behalf of myself, the casters, and everyone here in San Francisco, thank you for joining us on opening day of the 2016 World Championships, and we'll see you back here tomorrow as the competition continues.